All right, in this video, I want to talk about how the world sees Christianity as a cult, and it kind of is. And I'm kind of coming to terms with this, that Christianity is a bit of a cult, and that doesn't mean that it's wrong, or that a cult is necessarily evil. Because think about this. Christianity talks about how the flesh is corrupt, our hearts are deceptively wicked, and we need to be saved not just from what we've done, but from what we are, sinners. And that this world has been corrupted, and that one day this world is going to be destroyed along with the heavens, and it's going to be recreated. And there was this Jewish man that lived 2,000 years ago, who we believe is the Jewish Messiah, who happens to be God in the flesh, and that if you accept him and his sacrifice for you in your place, that by faith you can die through him, be spiritually born again into his body, joined to him as one flesh and one spirit, and saved from not only what you have done, but what you are. So that when the time comes for judgment, and the time comes to destroy all the corrupt flesh, the corrupt earth, and the corrupt heavens to recreate it, God's going to spare you. And he's going to protect you and take care of you, so that you can enjoy the new heavens and earth that aren't corrupted, and a body that's no longer corrupted, where it enjoys sin. And to the world, you got to understand that this is very cult-like, because you're telling the world that to be a friend with the world and care about the world, like the governments, right, the religions, the media, the education systems, right, that all these things there, to be friends with the world is to be enemy with God. To care about these things and to listen to them, that to do so is to be considered worldly, and that's not a good thing, because you're connecting yourself to a corrupted world, where this world is Satan's world, right? So we're pilgrims here. We're not to really make a home here. We're just passing through. So we basically let go of this life and sacrifice our ambitions, our goals, our dreams that we wanted to have in this life. Sacrificing everything, knowing that it doesn't matter in the end, right? What matters is if you have a relationship with God, where when you're judged, he can say, I know you. And he doesn't tell you, I never knew you. And that you get others to have that same relationship where they can say the same thing, so that God will never tell them, I never knew you. That they may all be saved, and we can all enjoy this new heavens and new earth when it comes about, right? And to the world, even to most Christians, they look at this as, oh, you're just part of a cult, right? And it's like, no, this is Christianity. This is biblical Christianity. Jesus started his ministry. He left his family. He left his job. He called his disciples to leave their families and jobs. And he lived as a jobless, homeless man, just preaching and helping people, until they finally killed him for it. All right? So, yeah. The same thing happened to all the apostles afterwards. They were all martyred, except for John. Right? So, that's how it is. That's Christianity. Right? And it's basically like a suicide death cult. And you got to understand that that's how they're seeing it, and there's good reason for them to see it that way. You're telling them to basically to not go by sight, but to go by faith, to trust God, to let it all go, and not to plug into the system to go, get your social security number and your ID and driver's license so that you can go get a job and get your W-2 and pay your taxes and feed into the system, and they're kind of like taken back by it. They don't realize that in reality, you're actually following God, you're following His word, and even if they call themselves Christian, they're not. They're actually in the cult. And it ultimately is a death cult. Right? Where we are willing to give up the physical life for spiritual life, they're willing to forsake eternal life for this temporary life, to have this, just to have a little bit better, more comfortable life here in this world. Even though they never truly have peace or joy in their life, and they're always complaining about everything, but they'll still fight to defend everything they complain about. And ultimately to lose it all. Because they could die at any moment, or at any time the economy could crash, the currency could lose its value, stock market crash. Right? Any number of things could happen. And everything you're building up and you care about, gone. Just like that. What we saw with that bug that went by around 2020, how that devastated a lot of things, a lot of small businesses and all that. And something worse could happen where it actually starts taking people's lives away. You never know when something like that could happen. Or a world war break out because of what's going on in the Middle East and Ukraine and other areas like that. All these riots going on, even here in America, where they're just not putting it on the media, and there's other ones going on in Europe, in France and Italy. Probably going to have some going on in England because of the, what are they calling it, digital ID or biometric ID, whatever they're calling it. And people don't want any part of it, rightfully so. And and now it's becoming more clear that to be in the world, following the governments of the world, the religions of the world, the economies of the world, the education systems of the world, the media of the world, and the technology of the world, is the true cult, getting you all dependent on these man-made things. They're all basically idols that you've all become dependent on. And that's the true cult of idolatry there. And it's basically going to enslave you, and ultimately is going to be destroyed by God, and that's what makes it a death cult. Because these Christians, they should know these things, and some of them know about these prophecies, but they don't seem to care. And they still cling to the world, trying to save their own flesh and their life here in this world, and they just don't get it. Because true Christianity to them is a cult. And in a way, if you start from a secular point of view, it is very much like a cult. And you just kind of got to accept that and embrace it. Realizing that it's not necessarily a bad thing, because it's true. Christianity is the truth. The Bible is true. But to follow it, to truly follow it, you unplug from the world, and you're going to look like you're a cult member, right? Even though all you would be doing is following God, following His word. You're not following anybody else. You're not trying to get anybody to follow you, right? You talk to people about the gospel, tell them about having their own relationship with God. You don't tell them to follow you and be like you. Tell them to follow God, because you know if they're truly genuine and want to follow God and follow His word, you're all going to end up at the same place. So you don't need Him to tell them to follow you. If you're both following God, you're both going to go to the same place, which is unplugging from the system, and eventually we'll all come together. Right? Even if it's spiritually all in the unity of the mind of Christ, we're all going to be brought to that same place if we're all truly following God. Jesus Christ, the shepherd. Right? His sheep hear His voice and they follow Him, and the others, they're not following because they're not His sheep. And we just got to accept that and go on with our life. So I just wanted to make this video. Hopefully it was quick. Just talking about that. So thank you for your time and attention. Take care. I'll see you in the next one, and may God bless you and yours.